Good morning. This is the Eager Beaver Show.
You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated podcast. The True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Misfit Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters, CanadianTarot.com, your uniquely Canadian online eclectic tarot community, and the Peppermaster, hot pepper sauces made from farm-fresh ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind. Well, good morning and hello, kids and cubs. Hello, DAMFAM, and welcome to season 5 and episode number 734 of the Daily Beaver Morning Show. Always 100% Canadian. Today, recording day is Thursday, September 11th. 2025, and I'm looking outside and it looks like it's going to be a nice day here at the Beaver Lodge. I see some blue sky, just a little bit of a wisp of cloud here at the Beaver Lodge. So yeah, it's gonna be nice. And as you can hear, if you are listening, the audio issues have been fixed, and thank you, DAMFAM, for confirming in the chat that you hear me too. Thanks to the wonderful genius of Mr. Grizzly. We were able to connect last night so he can find out what happened. And now, last night, I went to bed a little less dumb because now I know what to do. It seems the situation occurred after Friday when I recorded a show with the lady Laura from the O Show, because she uses Zoom to record hers, whereas we use a platform called Restream. And it would seem that whenever you use Zoom, for some reason, it goes into Restream and changes settings automatically on you. So now I know that whenever I do anything on Zoom, when I'm done, the first thing to do is to open up Restream and fix the audio settings. So with James DeFiore, when he called me, we tried to look into the actual computer settings and other places where we could fix audio, but it seems the issue was with Restream. And oddly enough, it's because I have too many settings here because of the software that comes with this microphone. There's basically many channels that are there, and there's one that's called, not that this means anything to you, but one that's called XDM 100 and one that's called XDM 100 Virtual or Unified Chat. And since I saw XDM 100 on both of them, both of the inputs, I didn't notice the rest that was different and that they weren't necessarily the same thing. So now I know what to look for and where exactly to look for it and when exactly to make the change. So hopefully this issue will never arise again because I am this much minimally more tech savvy today than I was yesterday and the day before and the day before. Oh man. A big thank you goes to our podcast founding sponsors, the Peppermaster, the Misfit Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, and PsychicTarot.ca. And of course, I am your host, the Eager Beaver, pronouns he, him, hey, Mr. Beaver A. And though Mr. Grizzly is not with us today, thanks to him, we have a better show. So in a way, he is kind of with us. And plus, I have a little bit of news from him to share with you based on the major topic of the day here. All right. We have a show for you. On course, not the show that I was originally planning to do because there was a major event that happened in the United States. You'd have to have been living under a rock to have not heard about it. And that's kind of took over. And even though we are a show about Canadian politics primarily, and um, I could have um, stuck to that and just decided to ignore that completely. And trust me, it would have been a whole lot easier. Um, I also know that when there's a subject that's that big, if you don't discuss it, then people go like, "Why the hell didn't you talk about that?" So we will address it as best as we can. As you know, uh, these are subjects um, th- that are in some ways um, very difficult to handle, particularly in a public forum, particularly when you are somewhat, like I said, I'm not trying to elevate myself by calling myself a public figure, but somewhat of a public figure. I mean, we do a show 5 days a week, and I put my voice and my name and my face to what it is that I am saying. So, and there could be consequences from that. So, I try to use the platform responsibly. Um, so, in that way, this is complicated. And in other ways, this is ridiculously and extremely simple. Uh, so, we'll go through that. There's some mixed feelings and emotions there. Uh, and hopefully, if we have time as well, we will talk a little bit about some speculation and much consternation about what is and what is not on the list, the initial list of major projects. And then, if there is time still, talk a little bit about, so give some updates about some issues with regard to labor unrest in Canada, because there have been some developments. All right. But before we do that, let's take, well, first of all, how's your mental health doing today, kits and cubs? Mine is okay. It's, no, let me rephrase that. It actually is rather good, but didn't get the best of news yesterday. Um, it was a mixed bag yesterday. I played tennis yesterday, and I actually won a very, very close match. Had to go to a tiebreaker, so we were tied at 8-8, and I won the tiebreaker 7-5. I had an opportunity at I was leading 7-5 and had an opportunity to close it up, but that's I've been having trouble winning games on my serve since I came back with my foot. I've been very good at breaking people on their serve, but having trouble winning games on my serve, and sometimes closing out games. So yesterday I had a lot of difficulty closing out the match. The guy just would not go away, but I did manage to get it done, get over the psychological barrier. So I'm very happy for that. And I played someone who comes from a badminton background and had a whole bunch of weird, wicked shots that I have never seen anywhere. So I was really on my toes and had no idea what to do. Most of the time I was just sort of reacting. Um, I ran so hard and so much, and this person played an all-court game, that I actually lost 2 pounds in 1 hour just playing the game. I had weighed myself in the morning and weighed myself when I got back from the match, and I had lost 2 pounds, just playing, for 1 hour. So, yeah, the guy made me run, and, on the good news side of the scale, literally scale, this morning when I woke up, I was still, uh, under a certain threshold that I've been trying to get under for a while. So, woohoo! Hopefully, I've been my weight has been going all over the place. When I broke my foot, I got down to about 157 pounds, and then soon after, I was able to get mobile again. I thought, well, I can move more, so I'll lose more weight. But instead, I ended up gaining a whole bunch of weight, almost 20 pounds, like in a very short period of time. And then I've lost 10 of those also in a very short period of time. So my weight keeps on swinging like crazy all over the place within a 20-pound range, which is a little concerning. But yeah, I'm so far getting down to a healthier weight now that I'm back to my regularly scheduled life, and I hope that trend continues. So that was a good thing, and winning at tennis was a good thing. The not so great thing, unfortunately, I did not get the role in the musical that I had really, 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 really hoped. I didn't get cast at all, actually. So a little disappointing. Well, very disappointing, actually. Quite bummed out because it's very rare that there are musicals with roles, the more featured roles for people my age. I'm starting to get a little long in the tooth for some of these things to be featured or get anything other than chorus. And, I'm a guy, and usually fewer guys show up for musicals, but it would seem that the talent pool here is very deep, and I might not have been the only one that had been waiting a long time for a musical that would have an opportunity for people in their 50s to have a lead or a supporting role. So, I'm on the wait list in case something happens to someone because they really did love my audition. At least I was correct about that. But I normally have a sense about 95% of the time if I know if they're going to call or they're not going to call. And this time I was pretty sure they were going to call because I rocked the audition. And well, I assessed incorrectly. So I'm a little bummed out because I really, really, really wanted to do this. I also really love working with this company. They're just the nicest people and create the best environments. It's always a joy. But it is not to be. I was really, really looking forward for an opportunity to show everything that I can do here. How well I can sing, dance, and act all together at the same time in a role that's other than ensemble, but not to be. And I don't want to wish for something to happen to someone so that they have to pull out because that's bad juju. But I have to admit, I won't be sad if something does. I don't know if that makes me a bad person or not. So I will not wish. I will just sit here uh, uh, quietly and demurely and uh, being the best, cutest version of myself that I can be, and wait to see if an opportunity comes along. But I really would like to do this show. So yeah, a bit bummed. A bit bummed, I have to say. But hey, they liked the audition and I made a positive impression. So ultimately, that's what matters. Um, but yeah, it's hard to look at the silver lining when something you really, really want. And, I practice for auditions at home and all that kind of stuff. But this one, I really practiced to make sure I could nail the song, like every subtle nuance, even give like some performance, not just stand there and sing the song so they can hear my voice, but like show some personality and stuff. And, sad beaver. All right. Let's look through the magic monitor and see who is with us today, kids and cubs. We have Playing with 3D saying good morning, Kit Uncover the News saying morning, Kit Elaine saying good morning, everyone, Kit Lori Sue saying good morning, everyone. Kit Wishful is here, also wishing everyone good morning. We have Kit Mohan and hopefully family. Good morning to all of you. Hope that Mateo is feeling even better today than he was the day before. And hope that Miss is feeling better because I think she said that she was coming down with a little something. So I hope that didn't take hold. We have Kit Bucky with us. Good morning to you. We have Kit Grace. I think I mentioned that already, but that's okay. You're worth a second to mention. Who else do we have here in the chat? Just looking through. Kit Cassie here saying hi all. Kit Swanky Frankie is with us. Oh, toothache pain. Oh, I'm so sorry, my friend, but I'm glad that you are seeing the dentist today. Hopefully, things will be on the upswing after that. Kit Tavi G is with us. Kit Mayhem, appropriately named, possibly, for today's show, is in the chat with us as well. We have Kit Jason. Hey, how are you? Nice to see you. Saying good morning, DAMFAM. Kit PNC Bio is with us as well. Good morning to you, sir. Hope you are doing very well. Hope you're also making some more mixes as you go, because I do like your music. I need to go check out your channel again. I haven't been there in a while. Kid PNC Bio makes some pretty good DJ, makes some great mixes. Uh, like I said, even made a special one for the Beaver and for Grizzly a while back, and really rocked out to that one. A whole bunch of bangers, and that one was a really good mix. Who else do we have here in the chat? Just looking through, I'm seeing lots of names repeating, so that might. A Kit Tim N, which is a new name for us. Welcome to the Beaver Lodge. Hope you like it here. Please pull up a log and make yourself comfortable. We have Kit Christian here with us. Good morning to you, mon frère. Kit Jillian as well, wishing us good morning. And Kit Jillian is the last one that slides across the plate for a good morning from the Beaver Lodge. All right, let's get into it. News-wise, go to the Associated Press, AP, for the main reason that it provides just facts with no editorializing or commentary. So, according to the Associated Press, this is updated as recently as 6:49 this morning. So, we are looking at about 40 minutes ago. Charlie Kirk, the CEO and co-founder of the conservative youth organization Turning Point USA, was fatally shot at an event at a Utah college. Kirk was a top podcaster, culture warrior, and ally of President Donald Trump. He led an effort to remake the GOP's Get Out the Vote effort in 2024 election, based on the theory there were thousands of Trump supporters who rarely vote but could be persuaded to vote. His killing Wednesday is the latest example of political violence in the USA, spanning a range of political ideologies, affecting both major political parties. Here's what to know about the shooting. Kirk was speaking at a debate hosted by Turning Point USA at Utah Valley University when authorities said the shooter fired from a roof. Videos posted to social media shooting into a handheld microphone while sitting under a white tent. A single shot rings out, and Kirk reaches up with his right hand as blood gushes from the left side of his neck. Utah Valley is the state's largest public university with an enrollment of 47,000. It's about 40 miles or 64 kilometers south of the state capital of Salt Lake City. The shooter targeted one person, said Bo Mason, the commissioner of the Utah Department of Public Safety. Governor Spencer Cox called the killing, quote, a political assassination. A person of interest was in custody Wednesday evening, Cox said, though no charges were immediately announced. Officials had no information indicating a second person was involved, the Republican governor said. And I believe I saw something earlier this morning stating that that person of interest that was in custody has been released. Officers were seen looking at a photo on their phones and showing it to people to see if they recognized a person of interest. Authorities said the shooter wore dark clothing. 2 people were detained Wednesday, but neither was determined to be connected to the shooting, and both were released, public safety officials said. The university said the campus was immediately evacuated and remained closed. Classes were canceled until further notice. Those still on campus were asked to stay in place until police officers could safely escort them off. Kirk was 18 years old when he co-founded Turning Point in suburban Chicago in 2012 with William Montgomery, a Tea Party activist. They aimed to take their ideas for low taxes and limited government to college campuses. Turning Point enthusiastically backed Trump after he clinched the GOP nomination for president in 2016. Kirk served as a personal aide to then candidate's eldest son, Donald Trump Jr., during the general election campaign. The Trump connection helped fuel Turning Point's rise to prominence. Soon, Kirk was a regular presence on cable TV, where he leaned into the culture wars. Contributions to the group doubled, then tripled, eventually climbing to $79.2 million in 2022, according to an analysis of publicly available tax filings. The group states that it now has a presence on nearly 4,000 high school, and college campuses, operating as a conservative lifestyle brand that promotes hundreds of online influencers. But they're against indoctrination. Kirk was known for provocative statements on race that he used to court Gen Z voters, or Gen Z voters, I should say. Mr. Grizzly would chastise me for that. Quote, I'm sorry, if I see a black pilot, I'm going to be like, boy, I hope he's qualified, Kirk said during a 2024 podcast episode with fellow right-wing activist Jack Posobiec. Kirk staunchly opposed the enactment of Juneteenth as a federal holiday. He said the move to elevate the date was motivated by, quote, anti-American sentiment that promoted a neo-segregationist view, that's another quote, that he claimed sought to supplant Independence Day. Republicans and Democrats alike swiftly condemned the attack. Trump ordered flags lowered to half staff and issued a presidential proclamation. The president, who sustained a minor ear injury when he was shot at a campaign event last year, I'm going to add allegedly, said he and Kirk had a close relationship. He described Kirk on Truth Social as a, quote, great guy from top to bottom. God bless him. Democratic California Governor Gavin Newsom, who last March hosted Kirk on his podcast, posted on X, quote, the attack on Charlie Kirk is disgusting, vile, and reprehensible. Let's see some pop-ups here on the screen, and that's about all that the Associated Press has put out on that topic in this article. I've got three things from the Associated Press open here. This is from Mark's. Oh, nope. Sorry. That is not about this. That was just something related. That was, and that's something related. So yeah, that's all we have from Associated Press. I was talking to Mr. Grizzly a little bit about this last night when we were solving our audio tech issues. It's really hard. He was saying that he was thinking of doing a Grizzly Growl on this, but he just opted not to, primarily because the allergies have been kicking his ass, and he's just been very, very tired. And he didn't want to do that type of thing while medicated and tired, because if you're going to talk about this publicly, you only get one shot to say the first things you are going to say. And hopefully you want to get it right because, unfortunately, in the current political climate in which we find ourselves, as soon as you decide to opine about something of the sort, you put a target on yourself as well. I am conflicted because the first thing that goes without saying is violence is never the answer, right? And it sounds a little trite, and it sounds a little empty, it sounds a little hollow, but it is true. Violence is never the answer. Violence begets violence, right? And we've already seen this online. There is a video of an event, an alleged vigil that took place in Iowa, if I am not mistaken, in which allegedly somebody on a scooter passed by and said something like "fuck Charlie Kirk," and violence ensued. And many people were left injured. It provoked fights and violence. I am a little loath to show video of it because these are scenes we don't want to see. We glorify in any way. But there's also an eyes wide open portion to this. So a little bit of a trigger warning. I will not show a lot of it. But there was something that happened while the violence was going on that sent a very big chill down my spine. So trigger warnings, kids and cubs, not showing this to glorify but showing this and not showing this to celebrate, showing this purely for informational purposes and for context. And I will literally little of it. It's 54 seconds, but just to get to the point that I'm talking about, where things were indeed, I found things. I mean, all of it is disturbing, but where something sent a chill down my spine.
This guy's gonna get fucked so bad.
And that's about it for now. That's all we need to see. Someone allegedly comes in, says obscenities and bad things about Charlie Kirk, and there is a fight, stomping, and people all around there are chanting USA, USA, USA. Like this is a patriotic thing to do, like this is a thing to do of which people should be proud. Now, I see this and I think, oh my God, this is awful, this is terrible. And then there's the part of me that knows about the history of the United States and thinks, yeah, that totally tracks. Right? Um, it's not like guns and politics in the USA have not mixed, or at least even violence. I mean, Lincoln, Martin Luther King, Reagan, the congressional baseball game, right? Um, assassinations, attempted assassinations, the elected officials in Minnesota that we talked about, shot in their homes. None of this is new, right? Um, I'm my first reaction, and I guess the title of the show, right? So that happened. Was that was oh, it finally happened. Mr. Grizzly had a similar thought. It's like but I don't mean to sound cold or callous, but I wonder what took so long. People go, I was like, well, we're talking about the United States solving problems with a gun is not new. Political assassinations or assassination attempts are not new. With the level, the coarseness, and the amount of stochastic rhetoric that's been going on, is anybody surprised really that someone got shot? If you're being honest with yourself, are you surprised? I'm not. I'm not going to say I totally expected this to happen to Charlie Kirk, but I totally expected this to happen to someone. This does not surprise me. Add the fact that you have an entire accelerationist movement out there. You've had people trying to provoke a race war for the longest time. It's none of this is surprising, and there's part of me that I wonder about my values and my ethics and all that kind of stuff because um, I surprise myself at how unmoved I am by the fact that this happened. And I really don't like that feeling because I should be more moved, right? It should be, "Oh my god, this is horrible. I can't bel why would anybody do this?" It's like, uh, "This is so shocking. This is wow, there's no place for this in society." And yes, while I agree there's no place for this in society, and Charlie Kirk did not deserve to get shot because nobody deserves to get shot for speaking their mind, even if they are saying vile, ignorant, nasty, and hateful things. But then there's the other side of me that says when you make your brand saying vile, nasty, nasty, hateful things, uh, that seek to provoke and seek to stoke anger, should we be surprised when anger happens, when it manifests itself? I once had a friend um, who liked to drink a lot, and was in bars often and very mouthy, very mouthy. And I remember, like, 20 years into our friendship at one point turning around saying, "You know, um, I am surprised with all the things that come out of your mouth when you are, um, past the point that no one's ever given you a knuckle sandwich yet." Um, I'm not surprised. I'm not shocked. This is shocking. I feel I feel that I should feel more as a result of this, but I'll be honest, I don't. I don't. Now, I don't know much about Charlie Kirk, to be totally honest. The little bit I did know of him uh, turned me off. It made it such that I just never sought out his content, not even for uh, entertainment purposes. I've been on YouTube. I've seen the one guy takes on 20 people and like this. I don't watch the clips. I've seen him in action once or twice. You know, I got a taste for what it is that he does and how he does it. Uh, you know, Talking fast, making it sound like he's very intellectual. But I mean, mm, most everything that comes out of his mouth, a lot of people like to call him he's a leader, a podcaster, all those types of things. I call him a fabulist. He's a storyteller. He makes up these fantastical stories about other people, um, mostly all based on lies or on a kernel of truth that he spins a whole bunch of lies around and then just says the most outrageous things that you can think about saying, which drives engagement. I mean, there's a reason his organization picked up $79 million in donations in 1 year, right? This type of stuff drives engagement. The nastier, meaner, coarser you are, the more willing you are to say the most outrageous things, the more likely you are to gain a lot of engagement and get a lot of money because a lot of people want that content. We try not to do that on that show. That's why we're not growing as fast as the other shows who do that type of thing. But we know the formula here. The person most willing to be the first to a microphone or camera to say the most outrageous things gets all the attention, all the engagement, all the likes, and all the donations. Uh, if we're sad about anything, Mr. Grizzly and I were sad that children lost a father. A wife lost a husband. Parents, if his parents are still in the world, lost a son. I'm sad that an event like this has happened because I cannot see how it does not act as anything other than a catalyst for so much more of this violence. This is going to be interpreted as the signal for many to start and accelerate that war. I'm sad, I guess in a related manner, for what this means for anybody else that becomes a victim of violence as a result of this. I'm sad for what it means for what's probably coming to the United States, given this happened on a campus. And we know that the Republicans, particularly Donald Trump, is at war with university campuses. These bastions of wokeness, allegedly, that there's probably going to be a whole bunch of governmental action to try and seize control in some way of post-secondary education. That's going to change a lot. It's no good. I'm sad for the fact that absolutely no good at all, none, is going to come of this. None. I find it hard to be moved specifically by his death, considering, again, the type of person he was and the political fentanyl that he kept injecting on a very regular basis into the American public consciousness. There are people saying things like, well, he had it coming, or what do you expect when you do that? And I won't lie, there's a part of me that had that thought, and I tried to chase it away as fast as possible because, again, nobody deserves this. But again, I'm not shocked and I'm not surprised that this happened at all. And I'm not shocked or surprised that this happened to him specifically. I never wished for it, never prayed for it, never had the thought, God, somebody needs to take this guy out, which a lot of people have had and a lot of people have expressed. It's not my personality type. But I won't lie, there was a part of me when I heard the news that was sort of, well, what can you do? And that sends a chill up and down my spine as well, because I don't want to be that person. Someone got shot. Oh, who was it? So and so. Oh, well, what can you do? I don't want to be that person. I want. Too many of us are losing our humanity here in these political debates, and I do not want to lose my humanity. There is nothing more in the world when an incident like this happens that I would like to be genuinely shocked and saddened and surprised. Like, oh my God, what a terrible thing. But really, all I could think was, in the oh my God, what a terrible thing, it wasn't, oh my God, what a terrible thing happened to Charlie Kirk. It's like, oh my God, what a terrible thing. Shit's gonna really go down now. My first thought was not for him, but for everything that's going to happen to everybody else as a result of this. Just literally, yep, there's a dead body, there's a corpse, yeah, yeah, whatever. That happened. But what does this mean? Oh my God, it's terrible. And just forget him. That's not a feeling I'm comfortable with. That shocked me. You know, um, a lot of people taking words that Charlie Kirk said when he was doing what he was doing. A lot of people pointing to specifically the comments he made about the Second Amendment and saying, well, if a couple people die as a result in order to preserve that freedom, that's just an acceptable price to pay. I'm happy to pay that price. A lot of people are pointing to the very, very dark and tragic irony here. A lot of people are pointing to the comments. I've seen some tweets um, and social media posts stating what Charlie Kirk was talking about in the moments before that happened. Um, I am not going to relate those things because I wasn't there and didn't see any of the footage and didn't listen to it, so I do not know if it's true that he was talking about these things or people are, how the web works. People are just saying, well, before he died, he was like bashing trans people or he was bashing black people or he was, saying something nasty about Jews or whatever it was like this. So, you know, uh, I I don't know what he was saying. I didn't any read any reports from any trusted media sources about that. Um, and apparently there is video of the incident. Mr. Grizzly saw it. Um, the the bullet went through his neck. He, according to Mr. Grizzly, bled out right after that. That was just not going to happen. Uh, it's video I don't want to see. I don't want to see. It was like the Luca Magnotta thing. There was video. A lot of people saw it and wanted to see for themselves. There are certain things in life I don't need to see. My imagination is good enough. Um, so, I mean, perhaps if I saw the video, I would know for myself what it is he was talking about in the moments before that happened. But I don't, I, I don't really care, and I don't really see how that's relevant. But a lot of people will look to those pronouncements and say, well, if you were okay with, if while you were alive, you were okay with people dying and saying it was an acceptable price to pay for the Second Amendment, and then you died at the barrel of a gun. A lot of people are saying live by the gun, die by the gun. I see the logic, but I also see the coldness that goes behind that. The cutting off of the sense of empathy. The general, well, when you consider what came out of his mouth and what he stood for, kind of poetic at the end, isn't it? Kind of had it coming. I, again, hearing that doesn't surprise me. I understand how people could say that. I understand how particularly people who didn't care much for him could say that. I could even more understand how the people he was saying nasty things about could definitely not have any sense of caring and say, well, yeah, so that happened. And then just step over the body as they go on and lead their lives. I I can see that. I don't fault people for that. I don't blame people for that. I can totally understand how and why people would do that. But what does it say when something like this happens, even to someone we really don't like? I don't feel he if you ask the little bit I know of him, what positive contribution has he made to the world or to society? I can't think of any. There's nothing of what he says and of what he does that contributes positively to society in any way. It's toxic, it's poison. But through hearing what it is that he said throughout the time he was doing whatever he was doing, if the impact on me is that it made me so hard and so cold and so unfeeling to him and people like him who spout the type of rhetoric that they do and contribute nothing but poison into the discussion on a regular basis, who champion or seem to promote or condone violence or accelerationism. That's not good. And I'm not saying that we should have some sympathy or empathy uh, for Charlie Kirk in the sense that, we need to look back at his life and talk about what a good guy he was, or try to find ways to see, like, well, he did these good things too. He wasn't just a bad person. I, I don't care to do that exercise to try to dig through the pile of poop to try to find the couple of good things that he did. To not speak ill of the dead. But I also don't see how speaking ill of the dead in this particular case is also going to make any life better and contribute positively to the social discourse. All I see is darkness and coarseness and people closing off their sense of empathy, being hard, and down we go. And that is very disconcerting. I'm trying to look at this in a way as, what does this say about us as people? What does this say of us about us as a society, rather than focusing on him and his contributions to society and his contributions to the coarsening of political rhetoric. I'm trying to go broader. I'm trying to make it not so much about him, but what this represents. Because there really is not, there's nothing to be gained from this incident happening to him specifically. Right? You were either a fan of his or you weren't. If you were a fan of his, you're experiencing this way differently than if you were a target of his. And to the people who are fans of his, right? Yes, you have suffered a loss. Someone you respect and that you look up to is gone, and is gone in a violent act. Some would say a senseless violent act. Now, the violence may be senseless, but a lot of people can probably figure out, not figure out, make an educated guess as to why such violence could have happened. But, sorry, I won't go to the but right away. But still, that's a loss. And you are experiencing it way differently than I am. But those emotions are very, very real for you. You might be afraid too. I know there's a lot of people on my side of the political spectrum are wondering about revenge and retribution. and what this could mean. Are we safe? But this is not good for you guys either. Now, someone, what if someone on the left sees this, someone on the left who might not be completely balanced and tethered, and decides to take inspiration from this and copycat? And that's a real concern. You might be worried and scared. Well, so are we. We're worried about someone on the right taking inspiration from this. Right? This situation is not good for either of us on either side of this. What can result from this? What can be generated by this? What this could catalyze in society is good for neither of us. It puts all of us in more danger. Whether you see yourself or your side of the political views you espouse as being the victim here, whether you see it as being the perpetrator or the victim here, none of this is good. And while a lot of people are speculating, right? Oh, well, must be someone from the left who went out and took someone out for the right. And we also know that that's not necessarily true. It could be someone on the right who's an accelerationist who decided, you know what? Sometimes you got to make a sacrifice for the cause. Just like it could be someone who is having other issues, totally unrelated with regard to the political beliefs, who decided to just, that was the day they snapped and crossed the line. We don't have the information out there. It would seem that the shooter is still out large. So nobody is speaking about finding a document with a manifesto or anything like that. So we don't know. We don't know if it's someone from the left. We don't know it's someone from the right. And we don't know if it was someone who was neither left nor right who just snapped. We don't know if it has anything to do uh, with what cause or whatnot. It could be someone trying to make a point about an entirely different thing. Right? I can see a scenario where it's a political idealist that just wants things to not be as coarse and wants to put a stop to it any way they can. There's so many different scenarios of what this ultimately could be. If you choose to not make your mind the greatest prison and approach this with limited thinking. Someone on the right got shot, it must be someone from the left. That's all there is to it. If you're able to think a little more creatively and broadly, it could be anyone for any cause, for any reason at this moment. There's not enough information left in the public domain, but that doesn't stop people from running with it, right? Because that's the playbook in these instances in 2025, isn't it? Someone gets shot, there's an incident of violence, and the bodies aren't even cold yet, that the speculation starts, or people start hoping. Like, geez, I hope it's not someone from my side, like after 9/11, when something would happen, right? You had all the people that wanted everything to be the fault of Muslims all the time saying, I guess, God, I hope it's a Muslim. And you had a whole bunch of people in the Muslim community, God, I hope it's not one of us because, my God, we've been through enough so much. We've been through enough already. That didn't take long to happen. It didn't take long to happen at all. We had Representative Nancy Mace saying that the left owns this. How does she know? She doesn't. Then she's asked, well, what about those people in Minnesota who died? Wouldn't the right own that? How dare you? Oh my God, how nice it must be to live in a world where someone gets shot and you can automatically declare that the left did this. And then when somebody points out, yeah, okay, but when people on the left died, does that mean that the right owns this? How dare you? And just absolve yourself for any responsibility for anything that has contributed to this type of violence. If people from the left die, how dare you suggest it could be someone from the right? If people from the right die, you better believe it's someone from the left. That's literally the type of rhetoric that generates more of this. Body wasn't even cold yet, and she was stunting for likes and clicks and donations by being the first to the camera to say the most outrageous things. Whether true or not. Not even having a way of knowing whether or not it was true. Just, hey, if I go out and say this, this is the stuff that is going to get me engagement. So here I go. Nothing else matters more than that. Let's just do that. Uh, Nobody's going to learn from this. If we move to the playbook as soon as this happens, we move to the part where some mockingly say, oh, well, thoughts and prayers. Ironically, mockingly. The people who are out there spinning narratives about the political affiliation of the assassin, either hoping they come from the other side or outright stating they're coming from the other side, doing the wish casting, stating as a fact that what they wish, want, or need to be true so that they have a reason to keep on doing things, the very things that led to this. Loony Laura Loomer was one of the first one there. Quote, they sent a trained sniper. Who's they? Who's they? The shooter's still at large. They sent a trained sniper to assassinate Charlie Kirk while he was sitting next to a table of hats that said 47. You could be next. I hate to say it. No, you don't. You don't hate to say it because you're the first one to rush out to say it. You love to say this. I hate to say it, but I have a sick feeling we will be seeing more targeted assassinations. Yes, you are. You will. The left are terrorists. That was her first thought. 5:10 p.m. Body isn't even cold yet. And then you have all the conspiracy theorists on the other side. They sent a trained sniper. Oh, well, if they send a trained sniper, then they're probably from the right? Because the right loves guns. Maybe it was a setup. Maybe somebody decided that Charlie Kirk would be an appropriate sacrifice for the cause. He won't mind. He did say, after all, that, it's an acceptable price to pay for the Second Amendment, that some people will die. I have no information one way or the other that that's the case, just like I have no information one way or the other that the left is responsible for this, just like she didn't either. But she had no problem being the first out to claim that it was. Her motives for that are her own. But when you see people do that, you have to ask yourself, because this is clear disinformation, what's the motive? And who gains from it? Who is she serving by doing this? And if you're able to figure that out, then odds are you have an idea of what's going on. But whenever you see disinformation like this, the first questions that should pop into your mind is, what's the motive? Who benefits? And then the pushes for instant martyrdom. Trump orders the flags through the United States lowered to half-mast in honor of Charlie Kirk. Why? He's a 31-year-old person who started an organization that sought to basically diminish, devalue, and dehumanize people. What contributions has he made to American society, to the world, that would warrant a flag being at half-mast for him? None. A lot of people pointing out that the courtesy was not extended to Melissa Hortman or her husband, those from Minnesota, who got assassinated. They were elected politicians and were actually serving their country and their states in certain ways. There was no flag at half-mast for them, but there's a flag at half-mast for him. So again, the question, how does putting the flag at half-mast benefit Trump? What's his motivation? And how does he benefit? Because if anybody thinks that he's doing this to honor Charlie Kirk, you haven't been paying attention. Donald Trump doesn't give a fuck about Charlie Kirk. Donald Trump gives a fuck about how Charlie Kirk's death can help him move forward, how his assassination can help him move forward, how he can profit from that, gain from that, market that. But Donald Trump doesn't give a shit about Charlie Kirk. What a perfect way to, some people are saying, what a perfect way to distract from the Epstein files. What a way to ingratiate yourself to kiss MAGA ass than by lowering a flag at half-mast, given that MAGA, some of it is abandoning you because they're thinking that maybe you're part of the deep state now, given your reluctance to come clean with everything that the government has on Epstein. Maybe this is just that type of a cold and calculated exercise. Well, if I put the flags at half-mast, maybe they'll like me again. And then you have on Fox News, Jesse Waters saying, we're going to avenge Charlie Kirk's death. Everybody's accountable. And we're watching the politicians, the media, all these rats out there. This can never happen again. It's going to happen again. This can never happen again. It ends now. Why can this never happen again and it ends now when it's Charlie Kirk that gets assassinated, but it wasn't when those people in Minnesota did? Oh, yeah, they were Democrats. Right? This is where we are in the discourse. So within the space of a few hours, we went from political assassination to speculating on who the making statements of fact about who the shooter is based on who we want them to be, who we need them to be, who we wish them to be, so that we can keep on doing all the things that we were doing before, so that we can do business as usual, the type of business as usual that ended up getting this guy shot. These people are showing their love and their affection for this guy. By not talking about him or showing care about him or care of his family, but saying, how can we use his death to keep on pushing the same damn narrative that we've been pushing all along that led to his death? We suspect. We've gone from that to the speculation, to the push for instant martyrdom, to the push for avenging, for more violence of this exact nature and vigilantism. All within the space of a few hours, fast forwarding through all those stages in mere minutes, which led me to conclude that I wouldn't be surprised if someone else in the United States of America lost their life in a connected event before the sun rose today. And then we see these protests where people are being stomped. Nothing good is going to come of this. I can't sit here and say, oh my God, what a terrible tragedy that Charlie Kirk is dead. It is a terrible tragedy that someone is dead. Even people we do not like, people we don't care for at all, don't deserve to be shot. Nobody does. But then I see tweets of people saying, well, it's not like the world will be a worse place without Charlie Kirk in it. And again, I see where they're coming from, but given the way he was taken out of the world, can you really say that the world would be a better place without him in it? Because I don't think the world's going to get better as a result of this. There may be less Charlie Kirk doing what Charlie Kirk does, but do you really believe that there are going to be fewer people doing what Charlie Kirk does as a result of this? I remember a horror movie I saw as a kid called The Gate. And at one point there, I think there was this sort of like gnome or something in it, and somebody had tried to smash it. And when it did, the gnome, all it did was become like hundreds of tinier little evil gnomes coming at him rather than so anytime he tried to destroy it, they just created more of them. That's what this reminds me of. Somebody destroyed Charlie Kirk. Now, as a result, we have 100 smaller Charlie Kirks that have been instantly generated. I'm not I'm not more virtuous than the next person. I'm not kinder than the next person. I'm not like I try to lead with kindness. I try to hold myself to a higher standard. I try to be a better person. I try consciously. I've decided what type of person I want to be, what I want to put out in the world, the face that I want to wear when I go out into the world. It matters to me what I present to the world. I care about what I look like when I say things. And that's why I'm trying to take this approach to this situation. Like, what does this say about us? What can this mean for society? As opposed to what do I think about Charlie Kirk? And did he deserve this? And who do I blame for this? I don't want to get into that rhetoric. I have to think about it because I have to think about all the possibilities it could be and what exists in the public domain and what doesn't, what can we say and what can as a fact and what can we not for the purposes of this show. But if I weren't doing this show and I were just in my regular life, I probably would have read the news and I probably would have said, oh, let's see how the Blue Jays did today. And that would be the extent of my thinking of it. The amount of time I would give to it. I would still have the same thoughts about, oh my God, this is terrible for American society. What happened? Does that create something? Uh, will there be a similar thing here in Canada as a result of that? Like those types of thoughts would probably come to me. Is this a coming soon to Canada type thing? But I probably would have made no social commentary whatsoever about it because there would be no need. There's nothing for. I would rather have not had to talk about this at all today because there's nothing personally for me to be gained about saying a damn word, positive or negative, about this. There's nothing to be gained. It would be just better to just pretend like it didn't happen. Start the morning, say, hey, good morning, kids and cubs. Yeah, there's something that happened in the United States, but we're just going to ignore that and we're just going to focus on us. But yeah, we are coarsening. We are becoming more uncaring. We are becoming more unfeeling. We are determining, yep, this is this is just the price we pay now for life in 2025. Yep, surprised it didn't happen sooner. This wasn't a matter of if, it was a matter of when. Come on, what do you expect? And then all the worst things that people can say that I've seen. Nope, I have no sympathy. I have no empathy. Yeah, fuck him. He had it coming. He deserved it. And again, I can understand why people say that, but sends a chill down my spine. Because that's how we're thinking about each other. That's not good. Nothing good comes from that either. So yeah, I don't know how I feel about this. I don't know, even though I've been talking for about an hour, I don't know what to say. And even if I knew what to say, I don't know if that's something that I could say and not have terrible things happen. Just the little bit that I did say, that I'm shocked and not, that I'm not shocked and not surprised, because given everything that I've been observing about how this discourse has been evolving, um, yeah, this is exactly where this leads. This is where it leads. This is the inevitable conclusion of this type of behavior and rhetoric. I had somebody write, you know, I said specifically what I wrote, the first thing and the only thing I wrote about this. I really don't know what to say. I'm not happy this happened, but I'm also neither shocked nor surprised. This was going to happen eventually, given the overabundance of dehumanizing and stochastic rhetoric in the US. Worse, nobody will learn from this. And then, all the things that I've mentioned according to the playbook. Well, we move to the part where people mockingly say thoughts and prayers, while others spin narratives about the political affiliation of the assassin, hoping they come from the other side so they have reason to keep doing that which led to this. And that led someone who allegedly claims they're a police officer to say, anyone who needs an example of the challenge we face here in Canada, look no further. So easy to post anonymously, some might call it cowardly. Now, clearly, this person was looking to stir up some crap. Because, one, I'm hardly anonymous. Right? I mean, you all see me, right? I put my name, my face. This person who chose to do that looked up True North Eager Beaver somewhere, they would find me. Now, this person has what they claim their name is, but I have no idea whether or not that's their name. And I have no way of knowing. The person has an avatar that's not a photo of them, but even if it was a photo of a person, I'd have no way of knowing whether or not that's them or not. So standing on the other side of your keyboard saying that this is an example of how, without pointing out how it is an example of how, and accusing someone or chastising someone on the basis of anonymity on social media, when anybody can pretend they are who they are with their handles or whatnot. So he's not any less anonymous than I am. And he doesn't have a podcast, whereas face and voice are there. So he's probably more anonymous than I am, calling me a coward because I'm allegedly posting anonymously when he's doing the same damn thing. But someone decided to take that tweet of mine and to try to generate some hateful activity as a result of me simply saying that I'm neither shocked nor surprised, because this is where all of this type of rhetoric was leading. Even that innocuous statement prompted someone to try to make trouble for me personally. There are other commentators in Canada that have had the same thing. One of them, who was cited specifically by Andrew Scheer with some very negative commentary that if I were that person, would have making a phone call to the police because what Andrew Scheer did by taking that person's tweet and highlighting it and saying what he said about it um, definitely put a target on their back. Definitely put a target on their back. Nothing good is going to come of this. And that's probably the saddest and the most frightening part of all. All right. I am not sure how to segue elegantly out of this type of subject. So, as clumsily and inelegantly as I can, we're going to move on to talking about more Canadian stuff. Can't wait to read the comments after this from the DAMFAM. I haven't been paying any attention to them because I've been trying to focus on my words and making sure that they are coming out right and trying to express my thought as completely as I can without veering too far into either of the extremes. I'm trying to keep this as down middle of the road as I can and as unsensational as I can, which takes some work. It takes some work. I'm speaking at a much slower pace and deliberate pace than I normally do, just to be sure that my tongue doesn't get ahead of my brain. Trying to be very judicious about the words that I am choosing, trying to speak about this in as responsible a manner as I can, rather than a click driving way. I do not know how successful I've been in this pursuit, but Kits and Cubs, DAMFAM, that was my intent, to try to be down the road, to try to look a little bit at what both sides might be feeling and trying to look at, rather than just focusing on the specific incident and who's to blame, at broader implications and what it says about us as people and as a society. Again, I normally don't have to do this type of thing, and I don't know how good at it I am. Hopefully, I was minimally competent and that I said things that have some value. But I don't know. I really don't know. That will be for you to be able to decide because I just can't tell and I'm probably not objective. God. All right. Moving on. The Prime Minister and the Liberal Caucus are meeting in Edmonton, a 3-day meeting, getting themselves together for what it is that is coming with the resumption of Parliament. They're not the only ones that are doing that, of course, according to Katie O'Malley at iPolitics. She says, with just 1 week to go before the House of Commons reopens for what will effectively be the first full-length sitting since last year, Liberal MPs are heading to Edmonton, Alberta for 3 days of intensive closed-door strategy sessions ahead of what is expected to be a high-stakes autumn for Prime Minister Mark Carney and his newly re-elected minority government. As flagged by iPolitics last month, it will also be the first extended caucus retreat since the previous Liberal Caucus gathered in Ottawa last January, after then Prime Minister Justin Trudeau served notice that he would be stepping aside as soon as a permanent replacement could be chosen, triggering the lightning round 6-week leadership race that ended with a landslide win for Carney, who would go on to lead his party to its third and counting minority victory in April. Quote, Carney grew up in Edmonton and launched his bid for the Liberal leadership there in January, but in the spring election, the Liberals were unable to pick up any additional seats in the city, winning only Edmonton Centre, iPolitics noted in its preview of the end-of-summer confab. Last fall, the Liberals hosted their caucus retreat in Nanaimo, British Columbia, according to the party. So that's what's going on there. Also says here, in addition to getting a preview of the government's legislative to-do list, rank-and-file Liberal MPs will likely also take the opportunity to recap what they've been hearing from their respective constituents over the summer and what they hope, or alternately fear, will top the day-to-day agenda in the chamber when regular parliamentary programming resumes next week. The meeting comes just days after Carney rolled out new policy measures and funding plans designed to insulate Canadian industries against tariffs imposed by U.S. President Donald Trump, including a one-year pause to the previous Liberal government's electric vehicle mandate for automakers, which is, quote, meant to provide relief to Canadian automakers whose traditional integration with the U.S. market has been cast into a state of flux. As yet, no details on the agenda for the meeting have been released, but it's a good bet that MPs will get a briefing on what to expect from Finance Minister François-Philippe Champagne's inaugural budget, which is due to make its debut in October, as well as the promised overhaul of the bail release system, which is on track to hit the House of Commons this fall. Also on the radar, some Liberal MPs are aiming to bring climate change to the forefront of the political agenda by creating a formal caucus to discuss the issue, and, quote, will have its first in-person meeting gathering in Edmonton with an invitation extended to all Liberal MPs. Quote, the effort comes as some MPs are quietly expressing concern that Prime Minister Mark Carney has relegated green initiatives to the background since coming to power, with one suggesting that the Prime Minister, quote, should be doing more to highlight his past role as UN Special Envoy on Climate Action. Quote, people don't understand how someone who has championed climate issues for 15 years can suddenly become Prime Minister of a G7 country and stop talking about climate change. Not a word about it. What's going on, one Liberal MP said. Of course, we know that the Prime Minister plans to repackage environmental measures in something called a climate competitiveness policy, which will probably be announced in the coming days. Or maybe even weeks, I should say. But there'll definitely be a reframing, so it's not that he's abandoning it, but trying to repackage it or repurpose it. But yes, there has been very little talk about it at the moment, which again, if I'm talking in crass political terms, is probably a good thing, because at the current moment, there are not enough votes in that. And please, kids and cubs, understand that when I'm saying that, I'm not saying that the issue is less important and it does not need to be acted on, but it's probably one of those issues that have become something that you take action on and you just do it, and don't ask for permission, but rather ask for forgiveness when you're done. So just quietly do what you need to do. Don't draw a lot of attention to it, but do the things you need to do. And then, when you get results that are good, just point to those down the road. But don't try to get a cookie for having taken the action, and don't try to draw too much attention to it, because there are no points. You do it because it's the right thing to do, but you don't try to score some victories or spike the ball on it. That would probably be my advice, because if we're looking at the list of priorities, there was a time during Justin Trudeau's prime ministership where environment was the number one or number two priority, like with 18% of the country saying it was up there. And then, well, that's back down to 5% because people are more concerned about will I have a job? Will I have a home? And can I eat? So even though they still would, the fact that the environment is not their top of mind priority does not mean that they don't want anything done about the environment, but it's probably not what they want to hear about from the government, because they have more pressing, immediate concerns. If we're looking at Maslow's pyramid of needs that we showed you earlier, food, lodging, being able to sustain oneself, kind of core basic needs. And you can't really think about anything else unless you know that that's been taken care of. So we might be in that space politically. Meanwhile, the Bloc Québécois MPs held their preceding huddle in Sainte-Foy, Quebec, with Bloc Chief Yves-François Blanchet slated to deliver his opening remarks on Monday evening, which he did, and post-caucus media availability following the afternoon. The Bloc Québécois might be the only one of the parties represented in the House of Commons right now who are happy at the moment because there are no real political landmines for them. For them, the future's so bright they got to wear shades, right? There's no real threat to them. There's no real caucus turmoil, and they're looking at the prospect of a potentially Parti Québécois government in the province of Quebec in October 2026. And of course, and because they are the Bloc Québécois and they don't necessarily have to speak for Canada in any way, shape, or form, life is really good for them right now. The Liberals, have to deal with Donald Trump and have, Pierre Poilievre trying to paint everything they do in the darkest light. The Conservatives have Pierre Poilievre, fighting to keep his job as leader and trying to find a way that they would be considered as a government of waiting, with a whole bunch of other turmoil going on within the overall conservative movement, from Alberta separatists all the way on one extreme to actual genuine progressive conservatives who do not see the value in Pierre, who do not see how his particular brand of rhetoric will lead them to any type of promised land. And some of them actually expressing some admiration for the fact that Prime Minister Mark Carney seems to be acting as a better and more authentic, genuine conservative. And I'm saying genuine conservative because, as Mr. Grizzly points out, that which passes or is labeling itself as conservatism these days is really reform regressivism and not conservatism. They kept the label, but they've changed the product. what's what's on the label is not what's in the bottle when you look at the Conservative Party of Canada. So, and lots of members of the Conservative Party of Canada are more libertarian and fascistic and stochastic, being upset that Mark Carney is doing a better job at being a genuine conservative than they are. It's basically what's going on there. So, but they've got turmoil on their own, trying to keep that sort of very messy and angry coalition together, while Pierre is focused on trying to stack the deck as much as possible to keep his job. Then the NDP, well, they have a leadership race going on, so they're a little distracted at the moment. According to the article, the 7 new Democrat MPs who emerged unscathed from the rubble of the party's worst showing in modern federal political history are set to descend on Vancouver Island, where, according to the party, they will gather with community and Indigenous leaders to hear their concerns before heading back to Ottawa, according to the advisory. They are going to have they had a 2-day preceding retreat that started with a closed-door meeting with members of the Chichat First Nation in Port Alberni, British Columbia, and an open-to-media town hall hosted by interim party leader Don Davies to follow in Courtenay, BC, which happened yesterday. And there was no official word from the Conservatives on what or if any preceding caucus meeting plans may be in the work for His Majesty's official opposition, though, if you've been paying attention to Twitter, it seems that Pierre Poilievre is demanding that he be referred to as leader, which is kind of ironic because the way he led his party was by getting his ass booted out from his own seat. It would seem to me that when you got your ass booted from your own seat and everybody else in your caucus actually won your seat, for you to then stand up and say, call me leader, might be pushing it a little far there. It's a situation, if I were the leader of the party, I would be practicing a little bit more humility here. But yes, all of these parties getting together and planning Well, except for the Conservatives, who seem not to be getting together to plan at the moment. But then again, Pierre is a one-man show, so right. Um, there was news coming out yesterday that about the major projects, and I wanted to talk about that a little bit in the sense that it seems that earlier this month there was something uh, that came out um, that listed 32 projects that could be on the fast track list. This is from the deepdive.ca. This was published Friday, September 5th. Said Ottawa's internal draft names 32 potential infrastructure projects for fast track consideration and includes a new oil pipeline from Alberta through northwest BC to the Pacific coast, according to a government document circulated within housing infrastructure. Sorry, got a little bit of dry beaver going on here. Housing Infrastructure and Communities Canada, obtained by the Globe and Mail. And I will do a little bit to keep the beaver moist here for a second, so please bear with me. There we go. The list is framed under Bill C5 of the Building Canada Act, passed in June, which allows Cabinet to designate projects in the national interest for accelerated approvals. Oversight will fall to a new major projects office in Calgary, led by former Trans Mountain Chief Don Farrell, with consultations required before decisions. Ports figure prominently in the list: Contrecoeur, Port of Montreal, Churchill, Manitoba, and upgrades at St. John and Belledune in New Brunswick, plus Robert Banks Terminal 2 at the Port of Vancouver, and a deepwater Arctic port with all-season roads to Yellowknife. In terms of energy products, total 14. LNG Canada Phase 2 at Kitimat, Xilissim's LNG from in the Nisga'a territory in British Columbia, North Coast Transmission Line, Vancouver Harbor dredging to handle fully loaded oil tankers, and the Northwest Coast Oil Pipeline. In Alberta, the slate includes the Pathways Alliance Carbon Capture Hub. Northern candidates include Taltson Hydro Expansion in the Northwest Territories and the Iqaluit Hydroelectric Project in Nunavut. Ontario's plans for small modular reactors at Darlington, recently estimated at $20.9 billion, is also listed. Eastern entries include Gull Island, part of the Quebec Newfoundland Labrador Power Partnership, Baie du Nord in Newfoundland, and PEI New Brunswick Nova Scotia transmission links and offshore wind off Nova Scotia. The Wind West project there and the Eastern Energy Loop. For mining, it accounts for 8 projects on the list: Teck Strategic Minerals Initiative and Red Chris Copper Gold Expansion in BC, the foreign mines McKelvina Bay and NextGen Energy Rook 1 Uranium Project in Saskatchewan, the Menango Nickel Project in Manitoba, the Crawford Nickel and the Ring of Fire in Ontario, and Strange Lake Torngat Metals Rare Earths in Quebec. The document names specific companies, including NextGen Energy's Rook 1 project, which the firm claims to be the only uranium company selected. Transport proposals account for the rest, including the Mackenzie Valley Highway in Northwest Territories, the twinning of the Trans-Canada Highway, rehabilitating the new Westminster Rail Bridge in British Columbia, the Alto High-Speed Rail from Toronto to Quebec City, and the Western Economic Corridor noted above. I'm not seeing anything here about a Calgary to Edmonton high-speed link at this point. Responding to questions, Minister Dominic LeBlanc's office said the government has been working with provinces, territories, industry, and Indigenous proponents to identify potential projects of national interest. The Major Projects Office has a complicated regional dynamics to consider. Alberta Premier Danielle Smith has prioritized a westbound oil line and says she is working with producers. BC has questioned the practicality and ruled out public funding, while coastal First Nations have called on Ottawa to reject any new oil pipeline to the northwest coast. The draft also places a Western Trade and Economic Corridor in the concept phase and notes that the Northwest Coast Oil Pipeline could be pursued with an economic corridor to link Canadian heavy crude to Asian markets. And in this final paragraph here, where you'll have an approved, it seems that there will be approved projects to start quickly, and then maybe projects on the list that are still in the conceptual phase, but that are being given more attention. So that might be a way to announce things without saying that they're going ahead now, but saying here are the projects we're going ahead now with, and here are some projects that we are taking under that we would like to do, I guess, but we need to learn a little more. So we're putting in this column yes, upon um, development of an feasible concept. So that's something that we might see as a result. Um, then there started to be some leaks yesterday uh, about some of those projects that might be there, that might be a little more specific, um, with um, some claims that the First Nation building projects would actually be unveiled today. But if you were looking a couple of days ago, I think this would be 6 days ago, according to the Globe and Mail, that draft major projects list that I just read from uh, was not good enough for Ontario, according to Doug Ford. So he's already having problems with it because only three of the projects are exclusively in Ontario: the nickel mine near Timmins, an access road to mining claims in the remote northern Ring of Fire region, and a plan to build new small modular reactors at the Darlington Nuclear Generation Station. And of course, well, there is the high speed rail line linking Toronto to Quebec City. Um, so, yes, Doug Ford does not seem to be happy uh, about that list. Doesn't seem to believe that there's enough there for Ontario. Um, so yes, the Globe and Mail and other sources had been hinting about some of these projects, and it would seem that, um, based on some of the chatter, um, that an oil pipeline is not on the initial list, which will probably cause some consternation. We already had Brian Lilly, of course, right on cue, stating that this is going to be such a problem. People just don't understand what the value of oil and gas is and how much you use of it every day. It's like, yes, we do realize um, how much of it we use every day, right? We're keenly aware because the whole point of the movement to go more green is because we are painfully aware of how much of it we are using every day and how much we need to use less of it if we all don't want to either drown or fry or choke to death eventually. So for conservatives like Brian Lillard comes like, I don't think the people on the left appreciate how much, oil is a daily part of their life. Yeah, we are very aware because we would like it to be less of a part of our daily lives. That's why a lot of us are doing this and have taken these positions, right? It's just this weird position to argue that the other side can't possibly be aware, because when the whole other side is all too aware. But we're not only aware of what role it plays in our lives, we're also aware of the consequences of it playing that big a role in our lives. And we would like to alter those consequences. So, already um, talking about trying to create some division. Well, you didn't put oil on there. Well, according to CBC's Kate McKenna, it seems that the initial tranche of major projects the federal government is hoping to get off the ground include expanding liquefied natural gas production in British Columbia and upgrading the port in Montreal, CBC News has learned. Prime Minister Mark Carney is expected to unveil a list of 5 nation-building projects this morning. The list is being sent to the newly created Major Projects Office for consideration. The list was printed in a draft news release shared with CBC News. Okay, so a draft news release that was shared. So I'm guessing that this is on pretty good authority. The document was verified by a source speaking on the condition of confidentiality. According to that list, the 5 projects that would be named today are Phase 2 of the LNG Canada in Kitimat, BC, doubling its production of liquefied natural gas. The Darlington New Nuclear Project in Clarington, Ontario, which will make small modular reactions. The Contrecoeur Terminal Container Project to expand the Port of Montreal, the McIlvenna Bay Foron Copper Mine Project in Saskatchewan, and the expansion of the Red Chris Mine in northwestern BC. So those are the 5 projects that are probably also the most furthest ahead in terms of their development and consultation work and having proponents lined up that can go. But as suspected in the previous article, it says here, in addition, CBC News has learned that Carney will also name additional projects that are at an earlier stage and require further development, but could be part of the next wave for consideration. So there we go, the concept base list. And this one has 6 projects listed on it. The Wind West Atlantic Energy, supporting wind power in Atlantic Canada. The Alberta-based Pathways Plus Carbon Capture Project. So while see, this is the thing with Danielle Smith is while she's probably going to be complaining that there is no pipeline, is she also said that the grand bargain was is if we could get the Alberta-based pathways stuff done for carbon capture, then that could create the case for and the social license for the pipeline. So even though there's no pipeline on the list, the preparatory work for that pipeline or creating the winning conditions for such a pipeline by getting the Alberta-based Pathways Plus Carbon Capture Project off the ground is on that list. So when we're going to hear a lot of people screaming, "Oh my God, you didn't have a pipeline. You're trying to destroy national unity. You don't care about us." That's not true because the Alberta-based Pathways Plus thing has to be a go and well underway so that the offsets of the extra oil that would happen as a result of having that extra pipeline will be in place. One needs to happen before the other, right? The chicken and the egg, I'm not sure which came first, but the one that did come first has to come first before we can get the other when it comes to a pipeline from Alberta, especially one that's going to go west. The third one is an Arctic Economic and Security Corridor. The fourth one, upgrades to the Port of Churchill. The next one, an all-weather road infrastructure in northern Canada. And finally, the Alto high-speed rail corridor between Toronto and Quebec City. Speaking to his caucus in Edmonton, Carney said Wednesday the projects will, quote, turbocharge the economy, diversify our products, and build new markets and create those hundreds of thousands of high-paying careers for our workers, from the trades to technology. So he's not just talking about jobs, he's talking about creating careers. The projects, quote, will increase our independence, boost our economy, align with the interests of Indigenous peoples, and advance our climate goals, he told his Liberal MPs who are meeting ahead of the return of Parliament next week. CBC News and Radio-Canada sources say the government's reasons for having a multi-tiered list is in part because some projects are more advanced and ready to be approved by the Major Projects Office. So I'm anticipating what's in this article based on what I already know to be true. Others have been identified but require more consultation and development, those sources said. Sources previously told Radio-Canada the first batch of projects will not include an oil pipeline. While a pipeline may not be in the first batch of projects, a Liberal source insisted the absence on the initial list does not mean that one will never happen. And again, as a result, when you see what they're doing with the Pathways project, that is laying the groundwork for one that could happen. But there is the twinning of LNG. So while there is nothing specifically oil, there is still more natural gas that's happening. And that should please Alberta somewhat. The Prime Minister has, and when I say Alberta, I mean Danielle Smith specifically, because that woman's poison. The Prime Minister has emphasized the importance of reaching a consensus with the provinces and aligning with the interests of Indigenous communities. Alberta Premier Danielle Smith told reporters in Calgary that she won't be concerned with an oil pipeline not being on the initial list. What? Quote, the list is going to be an evergreening list, Smith said. It's not, oh my gosh, this is it, nothing else can be added. And so we've got a little bit of work to do to be able to get an environment to get to an environment where oil companies want to expand their production. Smith said that she's hopeful that in short order we'll be able to get this to this finish line to get. I'm sorry, I'm not equipped for Smith sounding reasonable here, rather than taking this and running with it and saying, "Oh my God, I'm unsatisfied. Ottawa's doing it to us again." She's actually going with the rhetoric that we talked about a while ago, that this is a rolling list, a living list. It's not just one and you're done. She's actually choosing to speak the truth rather than um, create a story. Now, this might have something to do with the fact that she doesn't have a proponent yet. It's kind of hard to blame the federal government for screwing you over on an oil pipeline when you haven't done your part of the job, which is bringing someone to the table who actually wants to build it. So maybe her hand was forced. But this is atypical behavior for Danielle Smith. But I'll take it. Radio-Canada also reported that Carney told Smith earlier this summer the involvement of a private developer was essential for a pipeline project to move forward. So far, no company has expressed interest in financing or carrying out such a project. So there you go. And a little bit more on that. This is Kyle Bax from CBC also on September 9th, talking about the lack of proponent. For all the talk of whether Canada needs a new oil pipeline, there's one thing that's missing: a company wanting to build it. In June, Alberta Premier Danielle Smith said there was no proponent and no proposal on the table by any company, but pledged there will be soon. And I believe she said in weeks. So far, that has yet to materialize. The federal government is opening the Major Projects Office in Calgary with the mission of identifying critical infrastructure projects and fast-tracking their development. The initial list of what Ottawa considers to be a nation-building project is expected to be released later this week, and well, today is the day, it seems. The Alberta government is keen to see a new pipeline on that list, especially as Prime Minister Mark Carney has said it is highly likely that such a proposal makes the cut. Alberta's Minister of Energy and Minerals, Brian Jean, says he's encouraged by Ottawa's eagerness to help speed along the development of a major new export pipeline from Alberta to the BC coast. Quote, "I'm glad to see they recognize the need for that pipeline, the demand for that pipeline, and the reality of that pipeline getting to Tidewater would be so good for BC, for Alberta, and truly good for Canada," said Jean, who spoke with Canada's Minister of Energy and Natural Resources, Tim Hodgson, about the issue on Friday morning. Currently, none of the major pipeline companies have announced such a project or publicly expressed a desire to develop a big new oil pipeline in Western Canada. The absence of a pipeline proposal is in some ways understandable, considering their cost, complexity, and the history of failed and troubled projects over the last few decades. Only a small handful of companies have the experience, capacity, and deep pockets to develop and construct an export pipeline, and they would need to be willing to commit tens of billions of dollars and possibly a decade of time to pursue such a venture. The recent Trans Mountain expansion underscores the struggles developers can face, such as frequent delays, massive cost overruns, and repeated protests. Ottawa had to rescue it from failure. Quote, "I would hope that we've got companies who are doing their due diligence and are going to put forward projects, but of course, at this point, we don't know," said Grant Sprague, a former deputy minister for energy in Alberta. Developing a pipeline project is a complicated process, he said, considering the work needed to plan the exact route, talk to dozens of local communities, and evaluate whether oil producers would sign contracts to actually use the pipeline. Quote, "It's not a 15-minute conversation and we are off to the races. There needs to be that real due diligence done and people need to be confident," he said. Like we said on the show, the amount of preparatory work to make sure that a pipeline is even feasible and possible definitely takes more time than the time that has existed or has lapsed since Mark Carney has become Prime Minister. And therefore, on the show, as we've been saying, we did not really expect an actual pipeline project to be on this list. If anything, it would have been sort of like, yes, something preparatory for that. So either approving a corridor or, in this case, the Pathways project. Again, what we've sort of seen coming down the pike has seems to be manifesting itself. Indeed. Quote, "I don't care if it's a road, transmission lines, or a pipeline, people along the route want to have their input. The whole point of the Major Projects Office is to cut down on the time it takes federal regulators to assess infrastructure proposals in hopes of fulfilling Carney's election night pledge to build, baby, build. that could include a variety of projects from ports and nuclear power plants to new mines and pipelines. Oil production in Alberta continues to grow and set new records despite the alleged production cap that Daniel Smith keeps on claiming exists, but doesn't. Export pipelines could fill up by 2030, according to some forecasts. At the same time, oil prices have been relatively weak compared to the average over the last 5 years. It's not the world of 2010 or 2004, 2005, when everybody in the world wanted to build a new project in the oil sands and they're just clamoring for pipeline space, said Andrew Leach, an energy and environmental economist and professor at the University of Alberta. You have a lot of reasons why proponents aren't coming forward. In the face of U.S. tariffs, the federal government has a growing desire to kickstart the economy and diversifying trade partners. Quote, the Prime Minister has to be looking at developing new markets for Canadian products, including oil, said Warren Mabee, director of the Institute for Energy and Environmental Policy at Queen's University. Oil has been a huge moneymaker for the country, said Mabee, which is why there is interest by some politicians to build another pipeline. One report pegged the financial benefits of the Trans Mountain Expansion Pipeline at more than $12 billion to industry and government during the first year of operation. The world may change quite a bit over the next 50 years, but right now people want oil and people are willing to pay quite a bit for it, he said. Still, the construction of a new pipeline would raise questions about whether the country is serious about transitioning to cleaner energy, Mabee said. Companies may also be discouraged from proposing a new pipeline, he said, knowing how much opposition there could be, such as the protests against the Trans Mountain Expansion and Coastal GasLink, a natural gas pipeline in BC. Another project following hot on the heels of these pipelines is very likely to face quite a bit of pushback from those groups, he said. So that's where those things stand. So we will keep our eyes and ears peeled for that announcement. Finally, kids and cubs, I'm not going to, because we're getting close to 2 hours and don't want to go too long, wanted to talk a little bit about some labor unrest. And there are several stories here about that, but we'll skim them a little bit and maybe have time to go into it a little more tomorrow. But Air Canada, it seems that the offer that was made was rejected 5 days ago, according to Ken McGillivray. Air Canada flight attendants have voted overwhelmingly to reject their employer's wage offer, the union says. Several days of voting wrapped up at 3 p.m. on Saturday, and when the votes were counted, 99.1% of them had turned down the offer, according to the Canadian Union of Public Employees. The union said 99.4% of the membership took part in the vote. In a written statement, the airline says the wage portion will now be referred to mediation as previously agreed to both sides, so there will not be any service disruptions. The tentative agreement, which was voted down, included a 12% salary increase this year for most junior flight attendants and an 8% bump for more senior members, followed by smaller raises in subsequent years. The statement from Air Canada said that since both parties had also previously agreed that if the wage offer was rejected, quote, no labor disruption could be initiated, there will be no strike or lockout, and flights will continue to operate. So yes, it seems that they will go to mediation, and if mediation doesn't work, then they will go to binding arbitration. The wage offer was rejected on the basis that that for the junior staffers who were getting the 12% raise, that still wasn't enough to bring them to out of poverty wages. So the airline is looking for more from the company than that, because they want good living standards, especially for those coming into the industry. In British Columbia, the BCGEU, the BC General Employees Union, is escalating its strike action, expanding picket lines to more cities across the province this week. That's according to Regan Hasagawa of CTV News. Union President Paul Finch confirmed Monday that additional members will walk out at about a dozen new sites, including in Nelson, Williams Lake, Kamloops, Smithers, Nanaimo, and Fort St. John. Quote, and I'm going to see this. So this was yesterday. So this quote was given 2 days ago, saying, tomorrow morning, which was yesterday in this case, you're going to see picket lines come up in cities across the province, Finch said. That's over 1,000 more BCGEU members joining their colleagues on the picket lines demanding fair wages. Despite claims from industry insiders over the weekends, Finch stressed that liquor distribution warehouses are not part of the latest strike expansion. But we have heard a lot of claims that was going to indeed be the case. Quote, "We will not be targeting liquor distribution centers despite some creative reports we heard," Finch said. "That's not on the list of sites we've given at this time, but let me be clear. Absolutely everything is on the table." That uncertainty still worries restaurants who remember the impact from the last strike in 2022 when liquor warehouses were shut down for 2 weeks. Ian Tostenson, president and CEO of the BC Restaurant and Food Services Association, said his members are bracing for possible shortages. Most restaurants will get a delivery once a week, if not twice a week, Tostenson explained. So if this was going on for more than 3 days, you'll start to see out of stocks in restaurants, absolutely for sure. He warned that during the 2022 strike, businesses were forced to scramble. Quote, "We did in fact shift some of our purchasing into local wineries and breweries," Tostenson said, "but it's not just picking up the phone and getting a new delivery. You've got to adjust pricing, contact new suppliers, make changes. We should not be part of this dispute." The BCGEU has provided CTV News with a list of addresses it will be picketing at, and that was on Tuesday. According to a search online, the following buildings were targeted, and then they have a whole list of them throughout. The BCGEU, representing more than 34,000 public service workers, has been on strike since September 2nd after talks with the BC Public Service Agency broke down in July. The union says wages have lagged behind inflation for the past decade. The union's most recent proposal calls for a 4% wage increase in 2025 and 4.25% in 2026, along with targeted adjustments and incorporating bonuses into base salaries. The province's last offer was lower, 1.5% in the first year and 2% in the second. Finch said government negotiators did not return to the table last week, despite the union's bargaining committee being in Victoria ready to meet. Quote, "Workers in this province are falling behind," Finch said. "That's why 93% of our members voted to reject an unacceptable offer." In August 2022, BCGEU picket lines shut down liquor distribution warehouses for about 2 weeks. The disruption left many restaurants and bars short of product, and some shortages stretched on for weeks afterwards. Tostenson says that experience shows how quickly small businesses can be hit. Quote, "For consumers, they kind of wonder, is my favorite restaurant still going to be open? Does it have my favorite cocktail or wine?" he said. "If this gets protracted, it just adds another layer of uncertainty to an industry already under pressure." For now, Finch says the union is focusing strike action on government services rather than the public, but warns that could change if talks remain stalled. Quote, "We've prioritized not impacting the general public," Finch said. "After a while, if a government does not come to the table, that will change." CTV has reached out to the Premier's office for a response to the latest escalation in job action. Then, in Alberta, there is 2 issues here. One with the Union of Healthcare Professionals in Alberta, the HSAA. It seems that the Alberta Health Services tentative agreement was rejected there, and that happened yesterday. 59.37% opposed, 40.63% in favor. This is according to the HSAA itself. 78% of eligible members participated in the vote. And they say here to their members, "You sent a clear message that this deal does not do enough to support you. Thank you to those of you who took the time to review the tentative agreement, attend info sessions, and cast your vote. We know this has been a long and difficult process. The fact that so many of you engaged, asked questions, and showed up for each other reflects the strength of this union. The ideal next step is to get a deal with the employer that will recognize your worth and the incredible pressure you work under. Your work is critical to the health and well-being of Albertans. Every day, in every corner of the province, you deliver expert care in incredibly challenging conditions, and you deserve a workplace that supports you in return. Over the coming weeks, your union will be engaging you to support our next steps. Details will follow." The HSAA is held a press conference yesterday afternoon at 2:30, and the recording is made available to the members on the YouTube channel. So if you didn't see that and you are a member, you can find it there and shared across social media platforms. In addition, there will be an awareness campaign launching next week to shine a spotlight on the vital work that these employees do. Watch the social media channels and The union's asking for their members to watch the social media channels and help them to amplify the message. They also say that they are prepared for job action. This is an important moment. You've already shown your strength by standing together and engaging in the process. And then they're asking their members to download the HSAA app and ensure that they are subscribed to HSAA emails, so that they can remain informed about what is going on there. And then finally, the Alberta Teachers Association have given a strike notice, and the province says that it wants to avoid job action. This is according to Emily Ray Pasiak of CBC News. More than 51,000 teachers in Alberta will strike starting October 6th if an agreement is not reached before then. It comes after months of stalled negotiations with the province, Jason Schilling, president of the Alberta Teachers Association, said on Wednesday. October 6th is one day before the 120-day strike vote validity expires. Quote, students are being shortchanged and our teachers are being pushed to the brink. Without bold, immediate, and sustained intervention from the government, the situation will deteriorate further, Schilling said. The time of half measures and political deflection is over. Our kids deserve better, and so do the people who teach them. Some boards, including the Edmonton Public Schools, have started reaching out to parents. In a statement issued Wednesday, Alberta Finance Minister Nate Horner said the decision has cast, quote, a shadow of uncertainty and doubt over the start of the school year. Quote, I am disappointed that the ATA is using the potential disruption of the school year as leverage in its pursuit of additional compensation. Why would you be disappointed? That's what unions do. They have so very little leverage that why would you be disappointed that they choose to use it when they need to? That's just silly. Announcing a strike commencing October 6th before the parties have resumed negotiations only serves to increase stress among Alberta students and families, it reads. No, I think it increases stress on you as a government. At an unrelated news conference, Premier Danielle Smith echoed that disappointment as she thought the two sides were, quote, making great progress. Schilling says he doesn't see it that way. Of course, Danielle Smith is also a storyteller and a bit of a fabulist. Quote, we have teachers who are dealing with the largest classes they've ever dealt with in their lives. We have students who are learning in libraries and hallways and boot rooms across the province. And so to say that we're making progress, I don't understand where that's coming from. Smith said the government has the ability to give a 12% pay raise over the course of 4 years. Any more than that would leave the province short of money, something Smith says she isn't willing to do. You have a sovereign wealth fund. Danielle, quote, something's got to give here, she said Wednesday. If they just come back and say, give us more money, that's not going to address the foundational issues we're hearing from teachers. Smith says she understands the issues to be foundationally about classroom size and complexity. Quote, that gets solved by having more teachers in the classroom and more education assistants in the classroom, said. The last thing they put on the table of hiring 1,000 teachers per year for the next 3 years, we agreed to. According to provincial statistics, there were 91,000 more Alberta students enrolled in K-12 classes in September 2024 compared to 4 years earlier, bringing the student population to 825,817. Schilling said adding those teachers is a start, quote, but it doesn't begin to meet the needs created by years of neglect and record enrollment growth. Quote, government is well within their financial capacity to meet the needs of teachers, and they've given themselves a tight fiscal window, Schilling said. Smith said she and her government hope to avoid a strike and are prepared to try to make progress on classroom conditions and getting more staff in the classroom. A contract dispute involving teachers this widespread last happened in 2002 when about 20,000 Alberta teachers went on strike because they were frustrated with large class sizes. So not much has changed in 23 years. Lackluster pay and the effect on teacher retention, said Larry Bowie, the former ATA president who led educators in that strike in an interview late last month. With the goal of reining in spending to balance the budget. Oh, darn. There goes my screen again. Hopefully, I have not disappeared. There we go. Back on. With the goal of reining in spending to balance the budget, former Premier Jason Kenney's United Conservative government changed the school funding formula and structure of grants starting in 2020. 5 budget years followed where K-12 education funding from the province did not keep pace with the additional costs of inflation and growing enrollment. Although the government has pointed to annual education budget increases, operating funding is nearly $9.9 billion this year. It is government policy that spending increases must be lower than the cumulative effects of inflation and population growth. It has left Alberta students among the least funded in the country. So that's all the stuff I had on labor relations for you kids and cubs, and decided not to just half give it to you, since I had it all handy and was able to do that and relatively efficiently, I think. Patting myself on the back here. Yay me. All right, kids and cubs. That is the end of this episode of the Daily Beaver Morning Show. We hope that you love listening to us because we love making this for you. Remember, sharing is caring and word of mouth is priceless. So please tell your peeps and poops all about us. We really do appreciate it when you do. Um, because democracy is something that you do, of course, let's try that again. Forever-Canadian.ca is the website you go to if you live in Alberta and want to get the question of whether or not Alberta should remain in Canada as the question on a citizens' initiative ballot. Then you need to support Mr. Thomas Lukasik and his team's efforts to gather at least 294,000 signatures, more considering that duplicitous Danielle would probably try to invalidate some of those signatures in order to bend over backwards to help the separatists. But you need to sign it, and it needs to be witnessed. That's why there are pop-up stations where there are canvassers there, and you can go to sign the petition. And if you would like to help by becoming a canvasser yourself, there's a little bit of training required. You can go to the website and signal your interest there. Also, if you want to donate financially to the organization so it can fund its operations, that could be there too. And of course, to find out where you can go to sign, that's all available on the website forever hyphen. I'm having trouble saying hyphen. I do it almost every show, get it wrong. Forever-Canadian.ca. Please go there. Of course, provincial elections coming up in Newfoundland and Labrador, and a territorial election coming up in November in Yukon Territory. So find out what it is that you need to do there. And as always, for a couple more days yet, I did check. It is September 14th for the Red Cross Special Wildfire Appeal for Newfoundland and Labrador. If you want to help our brothers and sisters that have been affected by it, you can do so until the 14th and have your contribution matched dollar for dollar. So for every dollar you donate, it will be matched to create $2, and that's until September 14th. Of course, you can still donate to that afterwards, just like you can donate to the appeals that were already in existence for other provinces, Saskatchewan, I believe, and Alberta at the time. If I'm not mistaken, those campaigns are still open, but there's no longer the matching on them. But if you would like to donate and make sure that your dollars are matched to maximize your contribution, contact the Red Cross at 1-800-418-1111 via email at wecare@redcross.ca or online at www.redcross.ca. There you go. Words of wisdom. It's kind of hard to have them on a day like this, but I would say be if you're going to be reading anything about the Charlie Kirk thing, be very skeptical about what you read. I would very, very, very much recommend in these times to stick to things like Associated Press, Canadian Press, the news wires that do not editorialize. That's probably your best bet for information. There's going to be a lot of speculation on who the shooter is and all that kind of stuff. There's going to be a lot of speculation about motive. A lot of this information doesn't actually exist in a verified manner in the public domain. And there's a lot of people spouting what they wish to be true, what they need to be true for whatever their purpose and motives are in doing what they do. But if you care about actually just being informed, I would stick to the larger press wires. And if you see any type of information that says, aha, we know who he is, or we know why that they did it, and it makes you feel something emotionally that's rather powerful or intense, at the current moment, first suspect that that information may not be true, and then go to a wire to see whether or not that is the case. And also note that in situations like these, when there is a shooting, when there is a disaster of some kind, often the initial information that comes out is indeed incorrect. There are certain things that only time can do, and taking time to meticulously gather the data and the information cannot be done in the first hot take that happens in the first few hours or the first day after a situation like this. So please know that a lot of the initial information that you will get, again, if it's not coming from a wire, uh, is more likely to be um, wrong or imprecise. So we all have a first exposure recency bias. The first thing that we hear about something is the thing that we compare everything else that we hear to, and we expect that to either confirm or categorically disprove it before we believe something else. Uh, do not take the first impressions that you see and read and run with them as if that is the actual verified, fact based uh, story of what happened. Usually it takes a few days in a situation like that for what actually did happen and how it actually did go down um, to be very accurately reported. So uh, I know this is um, it makes tongues wag. It's going to be everywhere for a while. It's going to generate a lot of buzz. A lot of trees are going to die uh, for new articles being written on this. Um, take your time. The hot take on this one is probably not going to be the best take. So just a little political and media literacy here on my words of wisdom today. Kids and cubs could be a tough world out there, so please be kind to and gentle with yourself. And before I cut out, there's one thing that I did forget to mention about the Charlie Kirk thing, because I'm going to go to the credits and hopefully come back with some better news, some happier news, because it's been a heavier show. But I have to show this, unfortunately, because Canada, allegedly Canada's leader of the official opposition, um, had thoughts he wanted to express uh, about this situation. And as you know, um, he has a history of being one of these people who likes to rush in to be first. If we all remember, not too long ago, there was a car accident in Buffalo, New York, uh, that was initially misreported. That's why I said, the hot take wasn't great. And Pierre ran with the first reports he saw and was trying, uh, the storyteller that he is, to try to create a narrative that this was an accident that happened on the Canadian side of the Canada US border. And it was a terrible, tragic thing that was allowed to happen. It was most definitely, absolutely terrorism. And it was somehow Justin Trudeau's fault for not having done enough to keep us safe. And then, as well, we got more news, we found out that the car wasn't even on the bridge, but was and fully in the United States, and it was just a very, 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 very spectacular but terrible car accident, and that's all it was. But Pierre couldn't wait. Ambulance chaser that he is, exploiter of human misery and tragedy that he is, to seize upon that and try to turn it into a story about how Justin Trudeau is a terrible prime minister. He's not doing that with this one, but he is showing where his first concerns lie. So when he keeps on talking about putting Canada first, I will put this out here. Tweeted, We must all strongly denounce the shooting of Charlie Kirk. Political violence is never justified. The attacker must be brought to justice, and free speech must be upheld. Pray for Mr. Kirk and his family. As good humans, I can understand why we might want to pray for Mr. Kirk and his family. I have no idea why the Canada's allegedly leader of His Majesty's loyal, allegedly official opposition would feel the need to ask Canadians to pray for Mr. Kirk and his family and advocate for free speech being upheld in the United States of America. There's a portion of that that makes me say, wrong country, sir. Especially since your whole brand is Canada first. And I have not been able to ascertain this myself. But as you know, Kits and Cubs, as you may have heard, a Canadian soldier recently died in Latvia. And there's a lot of comment on the web that Mr. Polyev had absolutely nothing to say about that when it happened. If that is indeed true, that Mr. Polyev could not bring himself to say anything at all about a Canadian soldier who died in Latvia, but is first to rush to social media to ask for prayers, maybe even thoughts for Charlie Kirk and his family, and to stand for free speech in the United States of America rather than freedom of expression here in Canada. That might not be the best look for someone who wants to eventually be Prime Minister of Canada. May not be the best look. And that's where I will leave that. All right, Kits and Cubs. Audience participation on the count of 3. May I please hear Mr. Beaver please cue the cock on 1, 2, 3. Wonderful. Wonderful. Glad to hear you speak. And of course, I'm seeing in the chat that I made someone unhappy by pointing out that Pierre Polyev might be more concerned about what's happening in the United States of America rather than what happens to Canadians. That's okay, I guess, and trying to position it as a left versus right thing, which is okay. But I don't think it's a left versus right thing. It's a Canada, putting Canada first versus America first type thing. Wanting to represent Canadians versus sucking up to MAGA type thing. But hey, just my personal opinion. You know, we're all entitled to have different opinions without necessarily disparaging each other for having them or disparaging an entire political side for having dared to express them. But hey, it's freedom of expression. I've expressed my opinion, they've expressed theirs. And we will leave it at that. No hard feelings. That's what Canada is about. We each express our opinions, hopefully, peacefully, and civilly. All right, Kits and Cubs, I did hear you say, Mr. Beaver, please cue the cock. So here we go. You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated podcast. The True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Misfit Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters, CanadianTarot.com, their uniquely Canadian online eclectic tarot community, and the Peppermaster, hot pepper sauces made from farm-fresh ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind. We are grateful to the Crier Media Network for its support, Pete Jarvis for our artwork, and Paul Joseph Something for our opening and closing sequence music. All right, kids and cubs. I've got a little bit of news of Canadians who make us proud, and I am particularly happy to share this one because it involves a friend of the Beaver Lodge. And put your up for Mr. Nate Pike, who recently received an Alberta Emergency Services Medal. I'm going to guess for his very good and devoted work in his other job, not as host of the Breakdown Alberta. So, congratulations to you, friend. This is very well deserved, very well earned, and uh, considering that which happened to you earlier, in terms of some people thinking that you might be someone who deserves to lose their employment because of expressions, things that you've expressed. Uh, this is a nice bit of validation and maybe even a piece of evidence that could come in handy if things do go down that legal route eventually. So, congratulations to you. Very, very happy that this happened. And yeah, always good stuff. Another little bit of good news, not specifically for a person, but for a place. It would seem that the Halifax Convention Center was named the world's greatest convention center by Bloomberg's World's Greatest. Recognitions, according to Tim Houston, the premier, this recognition shows the strength of our people, our innovation, and the partnerships that make Nova Scotia a top destination for conference and events. Well done to the whole team for making Nova Scotia proud. And I would say even making Canada proud. That's so nice. Another little bit of good news: some Canadian athletes, according to Skate Canada, Majad Loriot and Romain Legac took gold at a competition in Osaka. They are ice dancers, and they danced their way to a new personal best score of 197.90 and the gold medal at the Kinoshita Group Cup. And since we have some images of them, well, put to show a little bit of glory. There they are in their skating outfits with the Canadian flag and the gold medals around the neck. Congratulations to you. I know it seems a little early to be talking about figure skating, but yeah, the preseason competitions are already underway. And of course, over the course of the weekend, there's going to be a couple of things here. The World Track and Field or Athletics Championships are coming up, and we'll hopefully talk a little bit about that tomorrow. But we have a great team there. There's the Canada Israel Davis Cup matches in Halifax, and unfortunately, there's been some bad news about that. They will not be open to the public due to protests that people are expecting to happen, because anything Israel gets protested these days, and people are wondering, we're concerned about the safety of the spectators that would come to watch the match. So it seems that they have closed it to fans, and that anybody who had bought tickets will be reimbursed, which kind of screws up the whole Davis Cup, because it's supposed to be country about country, and the whole thing about the fans in the stands and having that country atmosphere rather than player versus player atmosphere, which is a little different when you go to a tennis event. I've been to Davis Cup events, and they are a lot of fun. Um, well, all of that is going to be missing, and the little bit of home crowd advantage boost that Team Canada could get from that is going to be denied them, which is the whole point of having the Davis Cup and choosing a location, is to get a little bit of that home advantage boost. It also seems that Felix Auger-Aliassime will not be playing, given his deep run at the U.S. Open, needs to take some days off to recuperate. So hopefully the team that we have there will be strong enough to defeat Team Israel and move to the next phase. But that will be happening over the course of the weekend. And currently, right now, there's also the World Boxing Championships going on, and we have 8 Canadians involved there. And hopefully, we'll be able to give you more information on that tomorrow because I am already way over time and I need to get on with my day. So, kids and cubs, that's all I got for you today. Hopefully, ending with a little bit of extra, a little bit of good news because the tone of this, unfortunately, was not the most joyous show. Hopefully, tomorrow we will have some good news about projects that have been approved and a little more sunshine in the show and in the show's topic. But I thank you for your attention today. Really, really appreciate it. I know I did. Oh God, I didn't even do all the end of the intro, so I'll just do it very quickly. Kits and cubs. I forgot podpage.com. Right, the True North Eager Beaver with hyphen between each one of those words. We'll put the QR code there for you. Please scan that to register to get our audio podcast versions. That way we send them directly to your podcast feed. Of course, there is the True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated YouTube page, which is still growing. Kits, Cassie, and Elaine asking you to go there to click with our buttons, like, share, and subscribe. So please do that. And of course, this QR code coming up will bring you to our coffee page, coffeeko-fi.com/eagerbeaver, all in one word, if you would like to make a contribution to the Emergency Hydration Fund, where you can keep your favorite beaver moist. All right. And of course, truenortheagerbeaver@gmail.com, where you can send us a direct transfer if you prefer to keep your donation entirely Canadian. And you can also write to us to let us know what you think, good, bad, or ugly about the show, and make guest suggestions. And of course, our socials at True Eager, at the Blue Sky Beaver Lodge, and on the Jitter, True North Eager Beaver on Facebook, our original home. And right down here in our comments section on our YouTube page, please let us know what you think. We read everything, even though we're not able to get back to everyone. So quick and dirty, a little extra because I forgot that bit, which is also very important. And now I will see you tomorrow because, like magic, kids and cubs, I am off. Amour et bisous, and have a most beaverific day.